supermarket in an earthquake, I hate to say, but I know you're probably thinking the canned food section wouldn't be good, but you're probably thinking the toilet paper section would be okay, right? But don't do what they did in Kobe, Japan in 1997. If you go on Google and you look for footage from the Kobe, Japan earthquake, there are employees holding the wine on the shelves. They weren't holding the tuna fish, but they were holding the wine, right? So, here's the deal. In a supermarket, you can get to the end of the aisle display and get down and protect yourself. It's not good to move to the front of the store because there's always tons of glass at the front of a supermarket, okay? If you're pushing a basket, get down besides the basket, low against the basket, so that anything falling will hit the basket and not necessarily you, right? How many of you, what would you do if you were in a Costco or a Sam's Club? Have you ever looked up in a Costco or a Sam's Club? It's pallets in the back stock, right? So, if you're in a Costco, get to the end aisle display. There's always an end aisle display. Get down against it, and I'm talking if it's going pretty good, and you're going to protect your head and neck and get against it. You don't want to stay in the center of the aisle. Then, after the earthquake and before you leave the store, okay, do this. Grab as many of those free samples as you possibly can, and maybe you'll last you have for a while, all right? So, in this environment here, in an earthquake, with this type of building, there's very few hazards. I already pointed what those hazards are. Remember to act like a turtle and drop cover where you are, or if you're near the perimeter wall, get down and use that to shield part of your body. If you're near a wall, face the wall and protect your head and neck. If you're in the back rooms over there that have tables, obviously get underneath to protect your head and neck. If you're upstairs, you stay upstairs. You do the exact same thing, but try to get the children and everybody away from those mirrors, okay? And the best thing to do is, those of you who work up there, if I'm in the doorway looking into that room, this side to the left is going to be better. Here's why. On the right, you have a lot of air conditioning conduit and stuff. When you go up there and look up, you'll see it. It would be better for you to bring them towards that other corner over there. Okay? Okay? Once the earth stops shaking, then you do your head count. Make sure everyone's okay. Bring everyone downstairs, and then make a plan when you come downstairs with the rest of the staff. Don't stay up. Okay? For those of you who might be in that area over there where there's glass to the retail area, obviously getting away from the glass. No, there's this question. Picture right now yourself sitting on the couch or your favorite chair in your living room, okay? And the earth starts shaking very fast. Think about what's going to happen in your living room. What can you do this weekend to make your living room and your house safer? There are things you can do. There are straps. So I brought some visual aids here for you. I have some stuff. This stuff you can buy at any hardware store, but they sell these straps, and they're nylon straps with these bolts in it. You bolt it to a beam in the wall, not just into the stucco, okay, not just into the drywall, and then it attaches to your furniture, but the part that attaches to your furniture does not have a screw or a bolt. You don't want to damage it. It has this very strong double-sided tape on it. And it has Velcro, so on that rare occasion, when you say, I'm going to vacuum behind that big dresser drawers in the bedroom, you can undo the Velcro, move it, clean behind it, put it right back, okay? The way they sell these is by the type of furniture. Now, I don't sell these, I'm not promoting a particular product, but when you go buy it, you buy the kit for the 5-level dresser drawer thing, you buy the kit for the water cooler, you buy the kit for the refrigerator, you buy the kit for the TV, you buy the appropriate thing. Every major hardware store has an earthquake part aisle somewhere in that store. There is also a store out here in Van Nuys. It's called SOS Survival Products. They have a website, but if you go in the store, it's one of those places where you don't know what you're going to buy when you get there, but you end up spending $200 when you leave it because you realize, I need that, I need that, I need that. Fire extinguishers, straps, all this stuff. Other things, there's this putty. It's called Earthquake Hold putty, museum putty. This is what you put under knickknacks. That vase or that thing that's on the shelf. Think about your workplace and your office. What can you do? Because you're going to get hurt by the stuff moving, not from the building falling. So prevent stuff from moving. You put a little dab of this under some object, it's not going anywhere. Okay? Another thing that we have is pictures on the wall. How many of you, your pictures on the wall is a nail with a little wire on the back of the picture? Okay? The picture's coming off and it's going to land on the ground. How many of you were here for the Northridge earthquake, 1994? Okay, I expect that part of the room to raise your hands, not this part of the room. All right. In the Northridge earthquake, that was a 6.7 earthquake. Who was like in Northridge or really close, was really affected by it? Okay. How long did that earthquake last? How long did it shake the initial shock? 30 seconds. It was 11 seconds. Okay? No. And the reason why is because depending on where you are, the waves might have made it shake a little longer. But a lot of people, there were 40,000 injuries, and those injuries were mostly people who got up and ran across their house to get to their kids, and they had cut feet from the pictures that fell off the wall that had glass that broke. So these are picture hooks that basically go on the same way on the wall, but the wire gets trapped inside, not allowing it to come out. For a $4.99 investment for 4, it's worth it to switch out your nails to these special hooks, okay? Other things that you could consider. We have a gas shutoff wrench. How many of you know how to shut the gas off to your home? Okay, if you have a single family, 1 or 2 story home, the gas meter's on the outside. If you live in a condo or apartment complex, the building has a gas shutoff, but because you rent there maybe, you may not care where the gas shutoff is. But I would assure you, because the gas company and fire department isn't coming in an earthquake, it's a good idea to know where it is so that you can protect your home. This is a wrench that's the right size. You put over the valve, and your gas is always open. And so there is a valve that looks the size, the shape, and you make a little rectangular knob. You put this over it, and you turn it halfway clockwise like this, so that the valve is open, it's in line with the pipe, and you're turning it so that it's crossing the pipe. Do you always shut the gas off? No. Guess what? How many of you have smelled what gas smells like? Okay. Not as fun to smell. Natural gas does not have a smell. Okay? The gas company adds a smell so you know it's leaking. Okay? It's called perception. You don't need to know that, but that's what it is. That gas, if you smell it after an earthquake, you shut your gas off. But if you don't smell gas, don't shut it off, because it's a resource for you. And it's going to take don't ever turn it on until the gas company makes sure that everything is safe. Okay? How many of you know how to turn your electricity off? You know how to turn your electricity off? Okay? So, the panels. Do we know where the electrical panel is for this building?
In that room over there.
Okay? So, on the electrical panels, there is a large breaker at the top and a bunch of small ones. How many of you have blown a breaker, right? Too many electronics, goes out, you go reset it. Okay? Here's the rule of thumb in an earthquake. You're only going to turn the power off if you have a problem, okay? If you do, you turn each small one off first, followed by the big one at the end. If you turn it back on, make sure there's no hazards. Big one on, and each individual little one. Don't jump to the big one to shut it off. That's the tendency that people want to do that. That could cause a spark, which is opposite of what you were trying to accomplish when you were trying to turn it off in the first place. So little one's off first, followed by the big one. Do the opposite backwards if you have to turn it back on. Any questions about that? Water. You could turn the water off at each appliance in your house, but there's always a valve on the outside of your house to turn the main water off. Just get to know where that is. By the way, you could call the gas company and have them come out once a year to check on the safety of your gas line and to exercise that gas valve to make sure it's not rusted open. Okay? And they'll make sure it works. It doesn't cost you a dime because you're paying for it every month in your bill. for that service. So use it and exercise that valve, meaning test it. Okay, let them do it. Questions about that? Yes.
How do you know if you should shut off your electricity?
What times I would use electricity, let's say I have a gas leak and an electrical problem at the same time, I know that I could possibly cause a fire, I might have to turn my electrical off. Okay? There was a lot of fires up here in Granada Hills and whatnot after the Northridge earthquake, and a lot of them were gas fires, just fire coming out of the sidewalk, coming out of the street. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Okay? Other things to have in your supply kits. Water. Now, the water bottles that you have are good, but you can buy disaster water. That looks like a Capri Sun, right? Looks like a Capri Sun. But it's water that's stored for up to 5 years. So if you can buy bottled water and you can turn it over every so often and use it, great. But if you don't have the discipline for that, you don't want to pay attention to making sure you have disaster stuff, buy a whole bunch of this, keep it somewhere for 5 years, turn it over in 5 years. Also, emergency food. How many of you have emergency water and food in your home? Okay? So you could buy anything you want for your kid, but when you buy emergency food, it can last you 5 years. You don't have to pay attention to it. You could put in energy bars if you want, but guess what? Those have a 4-month to 6-month shelf life. So if you don't go back in and turn it over, you're going to have a really yucky thing to eat when the earthquake happens, right? So they sell these food bars that have 2,400 calories or 3,600 calories. You figure 1,200 calories a day. It's like a wafer, but how many of you like eating chalk? Because basically, that's the consistency of this stuff. But they do sell emergency food that's more like a regular meal with a heating element in it. So just keep that in mind. So the question is, how long do you prepare for? You want to prepare at home for a minimum of a week. Okay? Used to be 72 hours. No. It's going to take time to get outside help in. A minimum of a week. How much water? A minimum of 1 gallon per person per day for a week. It might sound like a lot to some people, or if you're an athlete, that might not sound like enough. So you increase it. I'll answer your question in a second. When it comes to water, okay, you're not just drinking it, you're using it to clean, sanitation, first aid. So if you have space, SOS sells this big blue drum. It's a 55-gallon drum that you fill up with water and you add these additives into it to keep it clean, and it has a pump on it, okay? And so that you can pump the water out. So that's a good way if you have the storage capability. The other thing is, where do you put all this stuff? So if you have a home in a garage, let's say, you could get a plastic trash can on wheels. Put your stuff in this new nice clean trash can. Here's what you do. On the bottom, you put the stuff you do not need right away, which I'd say food, okay, on the bottom. In between, you put your clothing, you put your other supplies, which I'll talk about in a second. But on the top, you put what you need right away, which would be what? First aid supplies, flashlights, those types of things. Then you create an inventory list, and you put that on top. You tape up your trash can, and then in your phone you put the reminder in that a minimum of twice a year when we change our clocks, we're going to go into our kit and we're going to turn things over, inspect, and make sure everything's good. You could create a smaller version of this in a backpack or a duffel bag. If you live in an apartment and don't have space for a trash can, just a duffel bag. And it's a good idea to have a backpack with supplies in the trunk of your car. And at work, it's a good idea to have a kit under your desk to grab and go that gets you through, let's say, just a day, if you need to. Any questions about that? Yeah?
Why do you need it for a week?
Because you may not be able to go to the store to buy stuff because they are having problems too. So you want to have enough stuff that you don't have to depend on anybody else. Okay? In Hurricane Katrina back in 2005, New Orleans and that area, it took a long time to get stuff in. Stores like supermarkets and stuff couldn't get stuff. That's why you prepare at home, okay? What other things should you put in a kit besides food, water, first aid supplies? Clothes, right? Think about things like flashlights, the backup batteries for that. Duct tape, plastic might be helpful down the road. Think about the needs of your family. If you have a brand new baby in the family, are they going to eat this stuff? No. So do you have backup baby food? If you have someone who has a medical condition that needs a certain type of medication or supplies, do you have extras of those because you can't go to the drugstore to buy stuff because they're closed too? If you wear glasses, I recommend going to Walmart and buying the cheapest, ugliest pair of glasses with your prescription in it so you don't spend a lot of money, and put it in a kit, because if something happens to your regular glasses, you'll be happy you have them. If you wear contacts, buy that same cheap pair of Walmart glasses, because what's the environment going to be like after an earthquake?
Dusty.
Very dusty. So we want to protect, we're going to have to probably put on glasses to see, okay? If you take a medication, don't take the last pill, and you always want to have extras just in case, all right? Other things is, if you have pets, don't forget your dog and cat and bird and whatever, their food and their supplies. It's also helpful to have a kennel, portable kennel for your dog or cat, because in that disaster you can just put them in there and run. And a lot of people who are affected by the recent fires found that to be helpful as well. Okay? Any questions about for pets or for supplies? So the handouts that I have additional lists and websites where you can get ideas of what to put in a kit. Okay? Any questions about that? Put a pair of tennis shoes under your bed so that in the middle of the night you don't end up cupping your feet. You put your shoes on. Here's another idea. Put a flashlight in your shoe so that your hand goes boom, you grab the flashlight, you turn it on, I see my shoes, I put them on, and now I do what I need to do. And parents, in the Northridge earthquake, out of the 40,000 injuries which were reported, there were probably others that weren't, not one of them was a kid under the age of 18. Okay? Why? Because they slept through it or knew what to do, because in school they practice it every month. It was the parents rushing to their kids that got injured. So just remember, making sure your kids, your room is safe. There's nothing big like a giant trophy above their head that's going to land on their head. We have athletes in here that are earning trophies and awards. Let's make sure these big things are not going to fall down and land on them. Use putty and other things to make sure those things stay in place. Okay? Questions about earthquakes?